Hi guys, so the blame game for the chemical attack that hasn't even taken place yet has been going on for at least a week or two by now. Assad apparently has ordered chemical attacks in Idlib, and Assad is replying saying why would he do that when he's almost victorious in Syria. They've just got one little bit left where all these rebels have been fleeing the other parts of the countries and fled to Idlib, where this final showdown is due to take place. Obviously, things have already started taking place. Russia is accusing the United States of dropping white phosphorus, which is an illegal chemical compound in Syria. And then you've got the fact that Russia plus a United States senator is saying that British intelligence services are preparing a false flag chemical attack in Syria in order to obviously have the United States, France and the UK probably launch strikes again similar, but even more so, as Donald Trump has said. Again, you could have Germany involved. Germany is considering joining US-led strikes in Syria if chemical weapons are used. Now, there's this if chemical weapons are used. It's not an if. They are going to be used. There's no reason for them to talk about it otherwise. So when these chemicals are used, and not if they're used, when they're used, this is going to be the point where I believe World War III starts. There's a lot of different things kind of just on the edge of starting at the moment, and I feel like we're just kind of just waiting for the spark, and the spark is going to be another kind of 9/11 style event, but on a grander scale, on the United States, or at least one of the United States territories. That could be Guam. It could be one of the smaller islands in the Pacific Ocean. Sorry, I don't know them all. The Marshall Islands. That's the one I was thinking of. Obviously, we've got Hawaii looking out for tomorrow, the 12th. Possible connection to the iPad Goat video. We know that Hurricane Olivia is passing through Hawaii at that time. Obviously, with Hurricane Florence in the news, Hurricane Olivia is getting no airtime whatsoever. And obviously, as I said yesterday, think that this is today, 9/11, the kind of opening ceremony, the curtains opening, the show's about to begin. And tomorrow there'll be, from what I can interpret, a blood sacrifice. And that sacrifice is going to involve an island that looks like a goat, where the goat's neck is going to be slit. And there we have our earthquake tsunami on the west coast. Now, the UK has reportedly sent submarines to the Mediterranean. Now, the UK doesn't have that many submarines to be sending away from the mainland over here to be going somewhere else. So that automatically makes me feel a bit suspicious about the whole activity, especially since I think that the UK may be part of, this 9/11 event, whether that's directly or indirectly. As I said before, if there is a tsunami generated on the east coast, that's obviously going to affect the UK, because water doesn't flow just one way. It propagates in a circle, generally. Russian stealth nuclear submarines invade UK waters, and the Ministry of Defense admits it cannot find them. This is extremely important. This report came out on the 9th of September. Russian nuclear submarines with state-of-the-art stealth capabilities are slipping into UK waters undetected. I've been bringing these reports to you guys for the last year, or maybe last year and a bit, about these Russian submarines and how the UK Navy has been saying that their levels have been at the highest since the Cold War, and even beyond that. Now that we've got Hurricane Florence barreling its way towards the east coast, I feel there are submarines underneath this hurricane. It's not possible for the submarine hunters, in terms of the planes, to fly into something like this. They're not designed for that. And obviously, we've heard the reports of the US Navy kind of pulling back towards the coast. A lot of the ships are pulling back towards the coast. That's kind of just clearing a way for Hurricane Florence to come in. But underneath that hurricane, what I believe, is submarines moving with the hurricane towards the east coast. If you notice, the hurricane is moving extremely slowly, so a submarine will be able to keep up with that and keep up with that pace. The interesting thing I find with this whole submarine hurricane, possible underwater nuclear detonation tsunami situation, is that the US submarines would be able to possibly track and detect the Russian submarines if they're flown under this hurricane. The problem is China hacked a Navy contractor and secured a trove of highly sensitive data on submarine warfare. And I brought this report to you guys back when it was in June. Chinese government hackers have compromised the computers of a Navy contractor, stealing massive amounts of highly sensitive data related to undersea warfare, including secret plans to develop a supersonic anti-ship missile for use on US submarines by 2020, according to American officials. The breaches occurred in January and February. The official said, speaking on the condition of anonymity, to discuss an ongoing investigation, the hackers targeted a contractor who works for the Naval Undersea Warfare Center, a military organization headquartered in Newport. I don't know what the RI stands for, that conducts research and development for submarines and underwater weaponry. Taken were 614 gigabytes of material relating to a closely held project known as Sea Dragon. Obviously, the times that we're in, Sea Dragon would be an appropriate name to fit the scenario, as well as signals and sensor data, submarine radio room information relating to cryptography systems, or cryptographic systems, and the Navy Submarine Development Unit's electronic warfare library. So basically, China hacked the United States earlier in the year, and I know, and I think I know, that China would have shared those plans with Russia, if not sharing it with maybe Iran as well. Obviously, sharing it along their alliance. Now, you've got the naval war plans hacked, and obviously the US Navy most likely changed a lot of those plans, but it may not have been possible to change them all. Some plans can't be changed, so it's possible that the Chinese were able to find out positions of submarines along the coast, different routines where they patrol, that kind of thing. Now, Hurricane Florence is barreling towards the east coast, and all the ships are clearing out of its way, kind of moving back to port. While I believe that there are submarines, whether Russian or not, I don't know, but I believe that there probably are submarines underneath this very slowly moving, increasing in intensity hurricane. Now, I projected from last week that this is going to be Category 5. I'm going to add some small clips from CNN, the weather part of it, just to kind of reinforce the fact that this hurricane is moving slowly, and now they're saying it could very well potentially be a Category 5 by the time it reaches the East Coast. I still feel like New York is involved with this somehow. Now, as I said, it may not be that it targets New York directly. It does seem to be tracking towards South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia area. But New York is definitely a target. And it's during this hurricane. This hurricane is going to be on the East Coast from around the 13th up until around the 17th. That won't be as a full force hurricane. It will downgrade itself down to Category 3, Category 1, going to tropical storm. But if it does move back out into the Atlantic, then it's going to strengthen again. And from there, I don't know what's going to happen yet. If I do find out, I'll let you know. The last thing I just want to add is Russia is on the warpath for World War III as 300,000 soldiers march today. So it's clear to me that Russia is definitely looking to start this war, or at least be ready for when it starts. Putin's forces are on the move globally as they move into place and rehearse combat drills ahead amid rising tensions between Russia and the West. Now, that sentence is important for me because of what we just talked about. Putin's forces are on the move globally. Now, that's not just in Syria. That is obviously probably looking at the Atlantic as well. And with the UK saying that Russian submarines are slipping in or slipping past the UK and they're not able to detect them or find them, it's very likely that those submarines are in the Atlantic and Hurricane Florence formed and became a Category 4, now possibly moving on to a Category 5. If those submarines were already in the Atlantic Ocean, then all they need to do is just sit underneath it and follow it as it moves towards the East Coast. That is pretty much everything I wanted to bring to you over the last 2 days. This is part 3 of the Signs of the End Times 2018. I'll call it a series. A lot of information has been covered in these 3 videos. This last one is just a pretty clear, for me anyway, a pretty clear indication that this Hurricane Florence is going to be the cover for this submarine scenario that we've been talking about. And it's been since last year was talking about submarines moving under the cover of a hurricane or hurricanes. That was also translated or interpreted to connect with last year's hurricanes. But considering where we are this year, I think it's definitely this year that it's talking about and not last year. So with all that said, you guys, we will be keeping a very, very close eye on events that are, well, I'll be keeping a very close eye on everything that happens tomorrow. In particular, I'll probably have a tab constantly open, monitoring Kilauea for any signs of activity. I don't know if they're going to continue to have the live stream up or if they're going to take it down, considering they are allowing residents to return to Leilani Estates and they've downgraded the alert level of the volcano. It's highly likely that the live feed could be, or may already have been taken down. I haven't actually checked. Should have, but I haven't. I'll go and check it after I've uploaded this video. We've got a lot to watch, and just as a side note, just something I've been thinking about is the op-ed from the New York Times and the anonymous writer. I have a suspicion, obviously no proof, no one has any proof, it's like playing Cluedo, but I have a suspicion it's Ivanka. There is something that is making me think that the one person who could actually affect Donald Trump that much would be his own daughter. And that may be a connection to the girl in the I Pay Goat video. If that is the case, the girl is holding red apple. She drops the red apple and it flowers. That's a symbol of puberty. And girls usually reach puberty, or the average age for girls reaching puberty is 12. And that may be a reference to the date, which is the 12th, possibly of September. And obviously that's the same time we're looking at Kilauea, which is the very next frame after that scene. So I'm looking out for any news to do with the anonymous op-ed writer, possibly being Ivanka, and also news around Hawaii, any eruptions coming from fissure number 8, any signs of Helena slump starting to fail. And obviously we've got this whole warpath from Russia that is just suggesting, yeah, we're there, guys. So with all that said, I just want to say the last thing. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. So although these things are going to be shocking, there is no reason to fear as long as you put your faith in the Heavenly Father and you believe in Jesus, believe with your heart and confess with your mouth. Have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and may the Heavenly Father bless you.
Millions on the East Coast waiting for this monster storm. Hurricane Florence expected to hit North Carolina Thursday night as a Category 4. That means sustained winds near 140 miles per hour with higher gusts. Florence is expected to strengthen tonight, possibly to a catastrophic Category 5. Once the storm comes ashore, it is forecast to slow down, likely increasing heavy rain and flooding.
To get a sense of just how strong Florence is, look at this satellite image of the storm out in the Atlantic. Note the tiny, smooth eye at the center of the hurricane, signifying a very strong, well-organized storm.
Path hasn't changed since really 5 a.m., Poppy, but a couple things have, and we will get a brand new update in about 50 minutes, 50 minutes, because the 11 o'clock update will have a new track. Hopefully it doesn't change very much, because if it does change, then obviously the Hurricane Center is saying, wait, we don't know what's going on. If you keep it in the same focus, the same place, then at least the people that need to get out know that they need to get out and not change your mind. Yes, I'm going, no, I'm not going, because that's just absolutely the worst. 130 mile per hour storm earlier today was 140. It lost its eye wall, and it's rebuilding one right now. So we're seeing this eye wall right there from space, and if it gets itself back together, and the Hurricane Hunter is out there flying around it right now, so 129 miles per hour, so 130 seems pretty darn accurate from where we are. And that's what's going to happen as it moves into warmer water. It will get stronger. The eye will come back. We're going to go to 150 miles per hour, maybe even 145. Now, even if we make landfall at 4 or even if it's a 3, it doesn't matter. What we have going on here is a bubble of water under this storm now, a lot like Katrina had a bubble. Katrina didn't hit the landfall at 4. And it really what it was the bubble of water that it built when it was a 5 that it pushed into Bay St. Louis and Gulfport and the like, all the way out to Dauphin Island with that wall of water. Some of those waves now, we talked about, it's 26 feet tall in Katrina. This could be 20, and you know what happened. You could see what happened in that storm. And this is the potential if you are on the right side of where the eye makes landfall. The left side is going to be less. It won't be 0, but it will be less, somewhere between 2 and 4. Here, they're going 6 to 12 in the north of Wilmington into Morehead City, easily. Up some of these rivers, we could see 18 feet. And if you were less than 18 feet above sea level and your houses, you need to leave. That's why this storm surge watch is going to turn into a warning later on today. Here comes the storm on the European model, making a run kind of at Wilmington. We'll see. I stopped it right there to give you an idea of what the American model, the GFS, is thinking farther to the north, closer to Cape Hatteras. We'll see if that happens. It makes a tremendous difference for rainfall, for one, but for surge. This is going to be a surge with this storm that might be 70 miles wide. Okay, so even if you get missed by 60, you still get hit. That's why we have to evacuate so many people. It's so wide right now, and it's getting wider, Poppy.
Wow. 18 feet, potential storm surge, 70 miles wide. This thing is no joke.